Well, hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Christine Fraser, and you are live in our studio audience for our Something to Chew On talk show episode with Rachel Shoniker. We have the most incredible episode for you today on overcoming self limiting beliefs with energy healing. And I know some of you have never heard of energy healing. Some of you just might be like, what the heck is this? So I cannot wait to share Rachel with you. She has been part of our Inner Glow transformation team for the last couple of years. We've had I think there's been over 60 women now go through that program and with absolutely life changing results. So the purpose of Inner Glow Getter is to help women overcome what holds them back from achieving their greatest health. So we've been guiding women through eating healthier, going through physical transformations with tools like juice feasting, breath work, and energy healing. And of course, I teach the culinary portion as well. So we want to introduce you to all of our team that's been helping make this happen. And Rachel is one of those people. So I cannot wait to introduce you to Rachel. As a prerequisite, we always want to remind you that we are here for the purposes of health and well being. We have incredible information to share, but we want to make sure that nothing that we say or do is meant in any way to replace any medical advice that you may be receiving, or um, yeah, just making sure that you always connect with your doctor if you're going through anything on a medical level. We are not medical doctors, but we have incredible tools on the power of health and healing. So we hope that you feel inspired. If you're part of our live audience, you can do little applause. Let's see some little applause in the crowd. Let's see who's live. You can do the little applause. You can do the laughy emoji. You can put celebration emojis, whatever you want. Thank you so much. It's great to have you. You can also ask questions. So we will have timelines throughout the chat. If you type in a question as we go along, then we can get your questions answered. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Miss Rachel. And Rachel, I would love for you to just share in your own words to get everybody into the mood of what the heck energy healing is. I think it's important
Right.
that people know a little bit about your own story of how you got into this work because and we'll get into exactly what this is as we go along, but yeah, I think it's powerful to hear your own journey as what got you into becoming an energy healer, an intuitive energy healer.
Thank you, Christine. I'm so excited to be here. I love being part of your Inner Glow Getter program, your transformation program, and the clients that you sent my way. I mean, I tell you this all the time. These women are just like, just absolutely beautiful. And I love being part of this process.
Hmm.
So I work as an intuitive healer. So what does that mean? This was not something, we've said this before. This was not something that, when I was growing up, I was like, I know what I want to do. It's like, no, not at all. It was quite the opposite. It was actually literally like placed on my path in a way that I bumped into it. And it was like, okay, here I am. And this is what I'm doing. So it was my own healing journey that brought me here. So I struggled with chronic anxiety for a long, long time. And by the time I was about 30 years old, I just got goosebumps thinking about it. I just got to a
Hmm.
place where it was like, I don't know what I need, but I need something. Right. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't know, for those people who've had like this kind of debilitating anxiety, it is exhausting because you're just like, electrified with this anxiety. And then it's like the crash from it. And it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And so I was, which we get to is a place of like asking for help. I was like, okay, I don't know what I need, but I need something. And so that was kind of the beginning of my journey, that and realizing that I didn't hold myself in the highest regards, right? I had a great way of portraying myself as being like confident. And I think I probably came off as a bit standoffish, maybe even a bit harsh. But these were all those like false personas that protected this part of me that felt like deeply insecure,
Wow.
um, essentially did not like myself, even loathed myself. And we do that, right? It's like, oh, here's this persona, here's that persona. Just don't get close to what's in here because this is
Mhm.
scary shit that I don't want that I don't want to
Right?
see, right?
Yeah.
And so, to make a long story not too long,
Mhm.
I kind of got to this place where a bunch of things, like my personal life and my work life, were colliding, and it felt like they were just like on this downward spiral, crashing and burning. And here I am trying to walk through this with anxiety. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen. I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't working, I wasn't functioning.
Mhm.
My income was just like,
Yeah.
and at that time, this man came into my place of work, presumably to ask about my services, different business at the time.
Mhm.
And he took one look at me, and I didn't know. He was an intuitive, he was an energy healer, and he took one look at me and saw my dire state and gave me this woman's business card and said,
Mhm.
"This woman teaches meditation, you need to call her."
Yeah.
Well, I had never meditated ever,
Mhm.
and I
Mhm.
at that point, I just wanted someone to fix me. I didn't wanna meditate, just fix me, help me,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And so a few months later, I finally called. And the funny thing is that, in retrospect, yes, we learned meditation. It was like meditation from day one, but essentially it was an intuitive training program. Like when I look
Wow.
back, that was not really just meditation. And so
No.
the second night of this workshop, so I'm like 6 days into meditating in my life now, okay? 6 days
Yeah.
in, and she asks us to do a reading on someone's parent in the room. So the person who I was to do this intuitive reading on was a woman in Tehran, Iran. And
Wow.
so I'm sitting there going, okay, A, what's a reading? What does it mean to tune into somebody? And am I
Wow.
seriously going to do this sitting in a group with the others watching as I'm like going to close my eyes? And I just remember thinking, please let something happen. Because you're
Wow. Yeah,
sitting there
because
in
you
it,
this
I'm
seems
like,
like you mean me? Like, why would it be, who am I
yeah.
to do this? That's what
And
I would
and ho
assume you
and
would say.
ho and what is that? Like,
How?
back then for me, it
Yeah.
was like, what even is that? Not even how, but what? And
Yes.
so
Yes.
that first experience was very, kinda like watching HD 3D TV. It was just like, boom, I was in it, and I could feel her rage, and I could see her adrenal glands and her kidneys, and then I saw these little black flecks all over her lungs, and the whole time I'm like, "This is wild, like, what's going on?" Right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And then it was over. And then years later, I actually ran into that woman on the street, and I said, "Oh, how are you?" And she was like, "Oh, I just got back from Tehran visiting my mom. She was in the hospital with a lung condition." And so I was like,
Wow.
"Oh my gosh, I saw that, right? I saw that years prior." So
Wow.
that so that was kind of my first experience with all of this.
Mhm.
Um, but at the time, I remember calling my mom, and I was like I think yelling on the phone. I was like, "I don't know what the heck happened last night. I don't know what that was, but I know there's something in it for me."
Mm.
And I couldn't quite even articulate what I meant, but I
Yeah.
feel like this. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just gonna give goosebumps again. If you're on that path, or you've landed at this spot that is so resonant for you, that is
Mhm.
so meaningful, that maybe you've been there in another lifetime in that role,
Mhm.
maybe, but it is clear sign, like, this here,
Yes,
this
yes,
is
yes.
this is for
And
you,
and I
right?
wanna say too from just even last night in our inner glow transformation students, we had someone in there. A lot of people come in very we work with a lot of intellectual women, the female professionals, accountants, and women that are very left-brained, and this is a
Yeah.
little woo for them. And we did have one of our I can call it one of she might be on the call today too. One of our clients last night even said after her session with you, because a lot of the things I'll talk about, she's almost like I can see her skepticism. And she's
Mhm.
open to it. She's open and she's very honest about her skepticism. And we got on the call last night and she said she had finished her session with you and she said, I finally have overcome my skepticism. I get it
Mm,
now. And I
okay.
said, "Yeah, Rachel will do that for you," because once you have that personal click, and I think a lot of
Yeah,
people have there's many people have never had that, and I get that because I used to listen to people and be like, "What are you talking about?" until it
right.
happens for you. And even in our sessions, like, you pull out things, you're saying things that it's like it's undeniable, right? When someone is reading your energy and being able to say things that you've locked down in your vault that you didn't even know were there, and then as they say them, it's almost like this, yes, it's really
Right.
profound, right? It's that
Yeah.
profound knowing. I've had the same experience. For those of you who don't know, I used to work as a mechanical engineer until I went through my own transformation with this work, and now it's my mission to bring it to the world. So I think
Yeah.
it's
Beautiful.
important, like you were saying though too, something that we find as a premise with Inner Glow Getter is, your outer reality, or what we call your life or your current circumstances, whether it be a relational circumstance, a financial circumstance, a life purpose circumstance, anxiety, where you what your current reality is this reflection of your internal state.
Right.
And I think so many of us, which I also love to have the premise of saying that there's nothing that is of your fault in your current state. Like
Mhm.
if someone has an illness, and sometimes I think a lot of women feel like guilt or shame for being in financial distress, being in a relationship that's unwanted, being in
Mhm.
anxiety, or some unwanted circumstance. And I think it's really important to say it's not your fault that you might be in that state. But with this
Mhm.
work, and this is what I want to dive into this conversation around, is we can change your outer reality.
Right.
We can
Yeah.
change a lot. You can really shift that, but so much of it is subconscious. So much of it is from I think that was my biggest breakthrough with your work, was realizing how much stuff I cannot access on my own,
Mm.
right? So I want to lead into our first question with you around how, we're talking about limiting beliefs, and a limiting belief is really a thought that keeps being thought, really. It's like, even being like feeling unworthy, like you were saying, or in that anxiousness. How do you feel, like, I'm always curious what your perception of our thoughts are and how they're impacting our life.
Mhm. Okay. Do you mind if I just kind of tap into that?
Please.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes,
I
of
was
course. It's
like
a very
I was
big
just like
question.
I was like,
Just
"Oh, I didn't prepare for this question."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
That's
didn't think
okay.
she'd
Yeah,
ask me
please.
this.
Yes, it's a
Beautiful.
big one. It's a big one.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay. So I get mm, hmm. So I see it as this image of us with these wires, okay, or cords or wires. And it's like the thought is those wires, and those wires are that black tube. It's kind of like showing like this black tube inside of us. And interestingly, the person I'm seeing it's kind of like in a coiled circle deep down inside. And so they're kind of going around it, and they're going around it with this thought, but really it's fear, right?
Mm.
So, you know, it's interesting to talk about thoughts, but really like the buried emotions are enmeshed, right? They're entangled in those buried emotions. So the person is like going around with this fear, going around with this fear, trying to understand, what is this about? Or maybe they're avoiding that. They don't even want to look at it. And
Mhm.
then they pick up that hose that's coiled inside. And then I'm just kind of like saying it as I'm seeing it in
Yeah, I
front of
love
me.
it. I love
They're
it. We're
like
getting like a
they're then
Rachel reading right now. I
yeah.
love it.
And then they spray it out onto the world. So like
Mm,
a fireman would do, right? But it's like black paint. They're like, shh. And now they're looking out at the world and they're like, well, this crap keeps showing up in my life. And I keep getting these relationships that, the person's not honoring me, or the person's disrespecting me, or the person's like doesn't see me, or, I keep getting these jobs where I'm being undervalued, or whatever it is. But it's like they themselves, and this is not going on what you said, to place blame on
mhm,
the person.
mhm.
It's
Amen.
just that if you think of us as as energy, right? And if you think
Mhm.
of emotions and buried emotions and thoughts as energy, then it makes sense that sometimes we're like, oh, and then we're kind of spraying it out, and then we're that's what we think we're seeing. That's what we're seeing. What we're seeing is actually what we're hurling out there, right? Like our buried fear, our buried shame, our unworthiness, whatever it is. And so we
Mhm.
try to clean it up on the outside, and then maybe we quit that job, or we quit that relationship, or we quit those
Mhm.
friends, or ditch this, ditch that. And it's like, okay, let's start fresh. But if we don't actually come inside, we might spray it a slightly different way or a different angle, but it's going to show
Mhm.
up again,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So does that kind of answer the question?
Oh, beyond, it's amazing,
Yeah.
and this is, I think the first premise that we all have to come to some realization of is that exactly that this outer reflection is, we have two options. I feel like we have an option of looking at our outer reality as this the world needs to change in order for me to be happy. My partner needs to
Mm,
do this in order for me to be happy. My partner or my job needs to change in order for me to be happy. Or we can go on the inside and look at life as a mirror, even what people can, for me personally too. I mean, we've worked together for years, so uh, for me personally, I've gone through so much financial distress, and I kept being like pushing, going, trying to go through figuring out how to make more money or do these things, and it wasn't until I did the cleaning up on the inside that then it was like, "Oh my goodness, all this time I've been." Yeah, it's like the finger pointing outwards when there's 3 pointing back at you. And if you can
right.
come to that realization within yourself and have the right tools, which is what I truly believe when you look at the physiology, right? That's why we do the juice feasting and some of the
Yeah.
nervous system regulation, and then we send to Rachel, because even going to Rachel right away, we find is like, as you've said before too, there's like some the women that come through the program are so open
Hmm.
to that excavation work in a lot of ways that it starts to be that inner kind of deeper healing of that whatever that core wound might be. And I started to see now I see everything as unwanted. Okay, let's go inwards and shift it rather than how do I change it
Right.
on the outside? How do I get the new job? It's always an inside job. And when you come to that realization and then you get these tools, life becomes kind of almost fun to me. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, there's anxiety. Everything is the messenger. When you go through that depression,
Mhm.
it's a messenger. When you are in some sort of physical ailment, it's a messenger. And you can keep, I love how even you were saying, "I need help," like, ask and it is given, right? You were in that state of anxiety, you asked, and you got someone that came to you in your
Right.
own law of in your own, energy attraction, that a solution came forth. And I'm kinda curious, this isn't in our questions, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on people who have extreme anxiety. Are they healers?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Very, very good question. So, hmm, a lot of these people who are, yeah. So a lot of these people who are the feeler, like, maybe as children, they were told that they were too sensitive, right?
Mhm.
It's almost like I'm thinking of somebody I worked with a long time ago, and I don't think she'd mind me saying this. It was almost like I saw all these little suction cuppy things all over her, and they were just all open. And so she was literally just like so. I don't know if I want to say empath, but she was so sensitive, right? That she picked up on everything. And
Mhm.
actually, come to think of it, she did have anxiety. And so I do feel that there is a connection to like this really sensitive state,
Mhm.
um, and picking up on a lot,
Mhm.
and then feeling like it's just, oh, look at my handshake. It's just too much, right? It's just too much. And so
Mhm.
so there's yes, but then also as a child, if you're that child who's really sensitive
Mhm.
and really open, and kids generally are anyway, but if you're that extra sensitive and you're picking up on the energy in the home, let's say. So,
Mhm.
whatever dad's going through, or whatever crap dad's chucking, or maybe the parents are fighting, or maybe mom's in a state of like guilt and shame, and just can't process it and hasn't. So you're picking up on everything. Those
Mhm.
also tend to be the ones who will step in and then try to like hold it all, right? It's like, okay, I'll
Mhm.
take this and I'll take that. And they're just little and they're trying to hold it all because they're trying to make everything okay, right? So
Mhm.
that, so it, so which brings it to another interesting point is, on a soul level, those beings then are
Yeah.
the ones who often come in as the like the unity consciousness and compassion and lots of heart. So they come
Mhm.
in and they're like, here I am, I'm going to help lead the world into love, right?
Mhm.
And uphold this frequency of love. And then they're in this home, they get kind of thrust in and they're like, okay, wow, like I'm not prepared for this. And all of a sudden it's like all this stuff. And so that longing to be the soul's compassion, love, unity,
Mhm.
healer
Mhm.
gets all kind of like mixed up in like, holy crap, I got to take this and I got to hold that. And mom's not well, dad's not well, and everybody's fighting. And oh my gosh. And then it's just too much. And then they grow up to be often that fear, that false self that we were talking about, that shell is
Mhm.
the one who feels that she needs to fix everything for everyone, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
anxiety, feeling they need to fix everything, they need to fix other people's lives. And it comes, it's like the soul is like, yes, we are here for compassion and love and raising frequency. So yes, but it gets all
Mhm.
confused with the fear. It's like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, I need to fix for everyone. I need everybody to be okay, right?
Mhm. And that's a big message for people, including myself, being that empath, being that person that wants the world to
Yeah.
be happy, love, joy. It's been a real process for me to shift from wanting to heal the world and going into just my own beingness has been probably my biggest breakthrough in the last couple of years, even, I would say, in holding that space. And it's amazing how much deeper transformations people have when I actually just hold space versus try to heal them. And
Right.
that's an
Right.
ongoing practice because you just want everybody to find that infinite self. So that
Yeah.
leads us into our next question because, we talk about how your inner world your outer world is that reflection of the inner world. Now, my earbud fell out. When I think about the life and my realizations that I came through some of my own spiritual breakthroughs was that we are truly infinitely capable in a sense of, our levels of consciousness reflect what we allow in. So, for example, a greater love in our life, a greater financial abundance, a business idea. I truly believe, I often tell people, every single human, in my opinion, is infinitely capable if they wanted to, of having $100 million company, love of their life. One of my friends was like, I don't want $100 million company. I want land. I was like, then land it is. You can have a whole island of land to build your gardens and your this. I believe that we all have the ability to just choose what we want and clean out those limiting beliefs, and it will arise. That's been my understanding and my experience, even in my own self, when I played with choosing things that were outside of what I consciously thought was possible, and dissecting some of the beliefs that made me think it wasn't possible, and then watching it show up in my life. So
Mm,
that leads me to my next question, because we're talking about limiting beliefs.
mhm,
And to me, a limiting belief is just anything that makes you think that you can't have something, or anything that makes you feel, or like, I can have, I'm in a tough job, but it's this almost, there's a lot of justifying that happens with, I think, people, like, this is why it
mhm,
is. And one day I could maybe, instead of coming to this place of the nowness that we can shift, in this point of attraction, in this point right now. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on, where do limiting beliefs come from?
Mm-hmm.
Why is somebody who's stuck in a job or stuck in a relationship that's maybe unwanted, what's keeping them there? What's the limiting belief? Like, where is this coming from? And like, I guess I love that analogy that you were talking about earlier of like, how thoughts are there, but where are these why are we so limited in what we're thinking? Why
Mm-hmm.
can't we be limitless?
Okay. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. So, no surprise to you, a lot of these limiting beliefs come from childhood. So, a lot of them. So, if we talk again about, buried emotions being enmeshed and entangled in the limiting beliefs, and I know we're talking about thoughts, but for
Mhm.
me, it's kind of hard to completely disconnect them and categorize them because they do kind of feel like they go hand in hand. So, if you think of, you know, a lot of people, a
Mhm.
lot of people. So we come into this world and we're confronted with whatever we're confronted with. Okay. So whatever our home environment is, whatever is going on with our parents, or even if we're living with grandparents, so whatever they're feeling. And
Mhm.
now, maybe as a child we were scolded or criticized or, repeatedly told we could do better, or maybe we weren't seen at all, right? Maybe
Mhm.
we were kind of just pushed to the side, or maybe we were abandoned, or maybe we were even abused, or
Mhm.
maybe it could be in so many different things, right?
Mhm.
So all of a sudden, these emotions, like the fear, the shame, really the fears, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not loved, right? I'm not lovable. And
Mhm.
and so what does a little kid do? They're generally, I'm going to say general because the souls
Mhm.
coming in as children these days are so advanced. I'm not even speaking for these kids. I'm speaking
Mhm.
for us, right?
Yeah.
Or our generations. What does the little kid do? It's like, it's too big. It's too big to process. We don't know when we're little how to process that kind of big feelings of fear, big feelings of
Mhm.
shame. And it becomes really confusing because on some level, we know as kids that we are love, right? That we are
Yeah.
infinite. We come in that
Mhm.
way.
Mhm.
So it gets kind of like confusing. It's like, oh, maybe that's not true, right? Based
Mhm.
on, and so we're looking into our environment, into the home usually or school, and now we're like interpreting our place in the world, i.e., our belonging, our lovability, our validation,
Mhm.
everything, not from this infinite space of source and soul, but from fear,
Mhm.
right? And so this is coming to the beliefs. It's like, okay, so what does all of this revert to? It's like, okay, if we're scolded and criticized, it's like, okay, the belief is I'm not good enough. I'm not deserving. I'm not deserving of love. You spoke about why can that person not leave a relationship or a job if it doesn't feel
Mhm.
like, well, that's probably a big one. I'm not deserving of feeling good. I'm not deserving of feeling loved. I'm not lovable. I mean, some people, the belief is even, I don't have the right to exist.
Mm.
So
What
really,
about a job? Like, often I see women too who want to start a business or leave a career path that they're in and they're stuck in and it's draining them. And how, like, what is it that they're not like, I'm always like, how do you not see that you can do this? This is
mm,
possible for you.
mhm, mhm. Okay. So, I think that a lot of us as humans, okay, think of it this way. Like, let's say there's this big mega star, okay, this big
Mhm.
mega star. And this is how, or this big burst of light, and this is how you came in. And actually, this is who you are. Okay.
Mhm.
You are the light. You are the
Mhm.
light. You are not the struggle. You are not the shame. You're not the unworthiness. But as we go through life, especially in our younger years. But it can also happen from, like, things picked up from other lifetimes and ancestors, all kinds of beliefs and energies that we carry. We essentially fall out of this knowing that we
Mhm.
are this magnificent spark, right?
Mhm.
It's like we fall out of this knowing that we are infinite. And now
Mhm.
we're kind of over here playing in the lower vibrations, if you will, looking
Mhm.
underneath the stones and the rocks and the rubble for our value and our meaning, right?
Mhm.
Looking for like, where's our worth? What worth? And it's like, if you really go into that, it's like that person may not feel any worth, right? Because they're in this, but this isn't really who they are. So
Mhm.
part of my, I mean, my favorite part of my work is essentially bringing the human back
Mhm.
into alignment with this magnificent, true authenticity that is them, right? And
Mhm.
allowing them to open and really feel and sense that infinite possibility.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if I may add, I am not like I say intuitive healer. I am not healing. Okay, I'm not a
Mhm.
healer here.
Mhm. Mhm.
Just in
I
case
like that, yeah.
anybody thinks, yeah, it is
Yeah.
the divine that heals. It is God that heals. It is your
Mhm.
soul that heals. It is
Mhm.
not me as a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you come, when we bring people into this state of their essence, of their light, of their infinite possibility,
Mhm.
and you do this, it can help mostly to do it regularly, but when you come into that space and you allow yourself to be held by the divine, by this
Yeah.
unconditional love, this force that creates all,
Mhm.
and you have the intention, this is key, to dissolve these beliefs that keep you stuck and small and justifying a life that's this big, even though you really want this, right? It's like if you
Mhm.
have that intention to allow source to dissolve it and you surrender to that,
Mhm.
then magic happens. So
Magic happens.
yeah, but the surrender part is key too, because
Mhm.
you would know, Christine, from working with so many people, there
Yeah.
is sometimes a resistance level. And the
Absolutely.
resistance is the ego or even that hurt, fearful child being like, "No, no, no, I don't deserve this. No, 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 this is not possible. Stay away." So
Mhm.
there, and I don't know what time it is, but may I
Yeah, we're
share
good.
may I share a quick story?
Yeah, please, of course.
Okay. So I feel like this story really sums it up. And
Mhm.
it was a few years ago. There's this uh, senior. He was a male, but he was a senior, and he was in the hospital, and he had a pre-existing, relatively serious medical condition, and he was in the hospital. He had some stuff going on with the lungs. He was on a ventilator, and somebody asked me to do a session with him, not him. Okay, not him.
Okay. Okay.
And the first thing when I tuned into him, I realized was this little boy who was essentially saying to me, I don't deserve love.
Mhm.
So let me ask you, if you feel deep down that you don't deserve love, do you think you deserve healing?
Mhm.
Right? Do you think you deserve joy?
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? And so when we've held this boy in this allowed him to be felt that he was being held in love, he was able to then essentially surrender. So the resistance gave out.
Yeah.
And from that point, and I share this story just because I'll probably never forget it. I saw his soul like almost like the size of a golf ball, and
Wow.
it rose up, rose up, rose up, came around the front of him, like fully expanded, opened in his lungs, and just went. Whoo, and I felt myself go. I can breathe, and I was on the phone going, I can breathe, I can breathe, I can breathe. And the other person was like laughing and crying. I was like, I can breathe. And I could smell it was like I could smell the oxygen. I was like, oh my gosh. And
Wow.
so within 20 minutes of hanging up that phone, this
Mhm.
individual texted me and said, I received notification. He's been taken off the ventilator. They're releasing him from the hospital within 24 to 48 hours.
Wow.
So I share this because one, it's not me or probably
Mhm.
any other human who heals. It is
Mhm.
source. It is God. It is your
Mhm.
soul.
Mhm.
And if you can surrender to be willing to Mhm. Look at the places where there is that resistance, right? We're talking about
Mhm.
limiting beliefs. If you're
Yeah.
willing to s- hold that within you, right? To breathe
Yeah.
into the body, come into the body. Where do I feel that fear? Where do I feel that shame?
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
hold that lovingly. Then
Yeah.
the resistance.
You're saying some really key words, and the one that I really resonate with in our whole program is the word surrender, which is a very challenging word for most
Yeah,
people because most people are used to efforting. I'm trying
yeah,
to heal. I'm trying to get over this thing. And that was something for me as a very A-type personality. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this thing like a checklist instead of this letting go. It's like let go, let God, or like letting things go. So this is where I love the transition to this question as well as how this energy healing ties into this
mhm,
overcoming these limiting beliefs, because I would also say in the women that have gone through your sessions, there's always a little bit of resistance. I can see it in them. There's a little bit of fear, like what is this going to be? and and many, I would say, go through a really deep, not everybody has their own
yeah,
different
yeah,
experience, but some of the common ones are this sort of deep emotional upheaval that some welcome that, and I always invite to welcome that. I'm saying better out than in.
yeah,
And some are, a little bit like, I don't want to talk about that thing that happened to me when I was little, like that's not. And so I'd love to hear your perspective on how this energy healing sessions affect those limiting beliefs and help us overcome them.
mhm,
Yeah, I'll let you speak to that.
mhm, mhm. Okay, so let me just tune back in because I feel like we've kind of touched on that a few different
Yeah,
ways.
we have a
But
bit.
so I think the interesting thing about working with somebody who's an intuitive is
Mhm.
because there are different modalities, there's different things you can do
Yeah.
that are
Yeah.
going to maybe do the same thing. But I think
Mhm.
the interesting thing is that I'm going to say, speaking for all intuitives, we have the ability to see or
Yes.
feel or sense energy. So we're able to see, like, okay, we're going straight into your, let's say, your root or your gut or your hips or your heart. It's like, okay, here we go, and we can
Mhm.
see that here is this younger self, and this is what's happening, and this is what influenced this person to feel this way. And so we're able to kind of like, it's almost like storytelling. And I actually often tell clients, I'm like, I'm just the narrator here. I'm just the narrator.
Mhm.
I'm just the narrator of the movie, right?
Yeah, and that's an important thing too. I find your sessions are so profound in how you visualize, like you say, these physical things that you visualize, but it's so personal too, and it's so profound on the receiving end to be like,
Right.
whoa, that's exactly what it feels like, or that's exactly what it is. I would never put that description to it, but you just pull it out in this weird. It's not weird. It's profound. It's profound in your description of feeling like you're chained. I think for you and I, we had a session where you said there's something happened, you were 30 and you feel chained. There's ropes around you and ropes. I see ropes and yeah, and that was the time when I was leaving my engineering career to go to culinary school. And I
Right.
felt like I was stuck. I can't leave my job. Who leaves their job? All these thoughts inside of me that were limiting myself from actually pursuing what I wanted to do. And
Yeah.
as we like cleared that, it was just like, it's wild.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's fascinating to me.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. So the ability to be able to take the person immediately
Mhm.
wherever, right? And that's an important part too, is it's wherever in your system, wherever in your
Yeah.
body. That's where we're going, right? That's
Mhm.
where we're seeing these things. And so it's kind of like a quick way to get there. You're not going to need to tell me the last 30 years of your life. It's like, okay, let's do this. Okay, here's where we're going. And we're essentially shown, spirit shows us what's up for healing. So
Mhm.
I trust that the first thing that I see, that's where we're being asked to go. So it's
Mhm.
kind of a quick way of accessing
Mhm.
the buried emotions and limiting beliefs. And then
Mhm.
from there, as we've already alluded to, it's essentially my job to fall back into this essence, this unconditional force, this love that heals. So we
Mhm.
allow that to then penetrate your system, right? To
Mhm.
the divine sees you and
Mhm.
all of us as perfection, as
Mhm.
pure love,
Mhm.
right? And if we can allow ourselves to be
Mhm.
held in that, and to allow that oneness with this unconditional love that is source,
Mhm.
then we're able to then um, dissolve these programs and beliefs, right?
Yeah.
We're able to then feel, and it will, for people with the emotion, it comes up. Sometimes they cry. Sometimes they say that they feel that they're shaking or whatever it is, right? And
Mhm.
so it's it's I guess we could say it's almost like a quick, a laser focused kind of way to go in and heal. But again,
Mhm.
I want to say it's not, it's not me. And there's other modalities that are going to help
Mhm.
you a similar
Mhm.
way. But this is just, for me, it's a trustworthy approach. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, please show me here's what I'm struggling with. Please show me the root of this.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
struggling with X, Y, and Z. Please show me the root. And then I'm,
Mhm.
I'm able to kind of go in and be like, aha, here's the root. Okay, let's
Mhm.
look at this.
Mhm.
And as you allow yourself to lovingly hold that and
Yeah.
tap into this source that really does do the healing, that's when things happen, right?
Absolutely, and it's fascinating to me. If I think you've said a few key words too, is be willing to go there and release the willingness to go there, and the willingness to let life be good.
Yeah.
I think is a very key thing. What I've found over the years for myself or so many women that I work with, it's like when these things unfold in life that bring us down, whether it be a breakup, a narcissistic abuse, a physical abuse, a diagnosis of some sort.
Mhm.
There's being human is hard. It's challenging.
Mhm.
It's contrastful. It's you know having a child with someone that you don't love anymore, or who knows, all of the facets of
Yeah.
life, and to kind of alchemize what you've been through, and I feel like when you're willing to go into the root and release and surrender whatever needs to be released and surrendered, and you go through this process in a space of trust. Whenever at the end of our 90-day transformation, I always ask the students, what would you say to the next group? And they all say, trust the process.
Oh, wow.
Trust the
Amazing.
process, because I think everybody has their own doubts and beliefs about, will this work for me? I don't know. There's all these other people having these breakthroughs, but I don't know if I'll get mine. And it's like you really, when you go through that journey of trust and surrender and let whatever needs to come up, and know that that's the best thing for you. I feel like that's an important message, because some have come back and they were almost scared of what came up, and I said, "Well, that's what you've been feeding all these years.
Mm.
That's what you've been maybe suppressing all these years, and that's caused you the fatigue or the this or the anxiety, because we haven't gone through to address that." And
Mhm.
I say Rachel's session is gonna pull up some of that deep-rooted subconscious stuff um, that maybe hasn't that you haven't been willing to go there on your own, kind of thing, and I think it's a really profound
Mhm.
experience for people. And then on the
Mhm.
other side, it's like I'm so curious if you have another story to share, and like we have dozens of women's stories to share about financial breakthroughs, going someone who
Mhm.
wasn't at the gym that just starts working out again, people who just they turn into so much more self-love and taking care of themselves and eating healthier and all these things. I'm curious if you shared that one about the auction. I thought was really profound. Is there another one that you felt really stood out for you in
Mhm.
what this work has helped someone overcome? I mean, it's probably like a
Mhm.
daily basis for you, but any
Yeah.
standouts?
Well, it's funny because I was just like thinking of the things I've heard recently. So it can
Mhm,
be, just yesterday I got a voice recording from somebody who I only worked with once, and the funny thing is because I'm like, oh, she never called me again. Okay, well,
mhm,
we had such a great connection. I hope everything's good. And then meanwhile, she leaves this recording going, since we've met. I just got goosebumps again. Since we've
mhm,
met, I've started I won't go into the details of what she's doing just because, but anyway, so since we've met,
Yeah.
I've started that business that we were talking about, and it's already
Mhm.
expanded. And she's like, and I'm making money. And she's like, she's like, I felt something that day. Then we worked together, and now I'm just
Yeah.
doing this thing. I'm just covered
Yeah.
in goosebumps as I'm saying it, because
Yes.
she, and I have to say, the other thing is like, not everybody's experience is going to be the same.
Mhm.
And I think people are at different places. And if the person is so open and so, maybe they've done some work before, but they're just wildly open to like
Mhm.
whatever it is shifting, then
Mhm.
it's likely going to be that, right?
Yeah.
Um, and a more subtle example is somebody who just told me recently, she grew up with a heavy critical parent, and she became like the yes sayer, right?
Yeah.
Everything was yes. You asked her to do anything, it was yes. All these things she didn't want to do, yes, 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 yes. And so what does that mean? Not really in herself, right? Just yes,
Mhm.
yes, living out here, not
The
even
people pleasing.
in
Yeah.
her heart.
Mhm.
And she told me a couple weeks ago, she called and she said, I can tell I've really changed because in this relationship that I have,
Mhm.
I'm saying, I'm firmly but lovingly
Mhm.
setting my boundaries and telling this person, yeah, that doesn't work this way for me, but here's what I need, or but it's in a very loving way. And essentially what she was saying, she is honoring herself, right?
Mhm.
For the first time ever, this beautiful woman is
Yeah.
honoring herself. And setting
Yeah.
boundaries might, it almost sounds cliche at this point because so many people talk about it,
Yeah.
but it's really honoring, right? It's
Yeah.
honoring self, and knowing that when
Yeah.
you're honoring self, you are actually doing what is in the highest good for everyone. Because
Yes.
when we don't have boundaries and people steamroll us, it's actually not
Mhm.
in their highest good either. Because now
Yes.
that person's acting from their ego, and they're not
Mhm.
getting the healing that they would actually maybe get if we said, no, that doesn't work. No, you can't speak to me that way.
Absolutely.
No, right?
Well, that's an important piece, I think, in relationships too, because often I think people stay with people thinking that they're gonna make the change. When they make the change, then they'll be better. I said, maybe you're the catalyst to making the change for them by leaving, or maybe you're
Yeah,
the catalyst. But
yeah.
and I love to say now that I understand energy healing myself, I love saying it's not really even your decision. We don't need to make such cognitive decisions, in my opinion, anymore. Like, should I leave this relationship? Should I get this job? I would say, let your energy do the work. As
Mm,
long as you, like, I often think of people as corks and we're just pulled down in the water. And when you do energy clearing and breath work and juice piecing, these things, you kind of peel away the weights that pull us down and we bob up. And when you
right.
bob up, the right things just align just naturally. And I think
Yeah.
as humans, we're so in our heads. And I think of like pursuing a dream or a purpose or your highest self, I think of it as like a gas pedal. We're putting our foot on the gas, and the limiting beliefs are just putting a foot on the brake. And when you
Right.
release the
Yeah.
brakes, which to me is what energy healing does, it's just sort of, it released the brakes, and then it just feels almost like natural to step into something different. And so I often say too, you don't have to worry about thinking, cognitively deciding what needs to happen. It's like, let the energy clearing do the work for you, in a sense that it
Mhm.
will allow for the greatest outcome,
Mhm.
allow for
Beautiful.
the loving relationship. So as a final note, and if anybody has any questions, now's the time to chat or put them
Mhm.
in there as a last call. We have I have one last question for you, and we want to get everybody to also understand, or not understand, we want everybody to submit your health goals form. If you're on the live or if you're watching the recording, we want to know what your goals are so that we can help you
Yeah.
achieve them, whether it be a health goal, whatever that might be. If you're a good fit for a 90-day transformation program, we can get you some more information on that to work with us as well as Rachel. We'll be sending out show notes with Rachel's information too, so you can just book a session with her privately if you're interested in trying out what this energy healing stuff is all about. We'll be giving you all the resources to get there. So if you want to click there, our live guests, you can submit your form so we know just where you're at and what you might be needing support with for future shows as well. And our last question, I think, do we have any questions from the audience? Now is the time. Now is the time. I would love to, let's see our little hi everybody, by the way. I'm seeing hi Rebecca, hi Lisa, hi Landria. Nice to see you all. I love that we've had so many that have come with Rachel sessions on the call. As a final note, I would love to hear from you as, one piece of advice or one thing you would say around to allow someone to believe that they can truly live a life of their dreams no matter what they've been through. I love to say that your current reality is not your final destination.
Mm,
And if you could have one last piece of words of advice for this audience, for the world, what would you say to help someone believe that they can truly live a life of their dreams, of their
mm,
desires, of their ease, of their peace? What would
mhm.
that be? No big deal.
Yeah, I know, I love that.
These profound life questions. What is the purpose of
You
meaning of
know,
life?
so I actually love that you've asked that because I've seen it like repeatedly. I'd say probably over the last year, where it's becoming more obvious to me that imagine like that there's two realities. I don't know how many realities there are, but just imagine that there's two. Okay. And so this reality over here is the struggle. It's the limiting beliefs. It's the hardship. It's, the day to day. It's the paycheck to paycheck. It's, all this crap that we picked up from our parents. It's, whatever whatever it is for us. And then imagine that, a few frequencies higher, we'll say, a few floors higher, there's this bountiful reality where you are you are encapsulated, held in almost like aligned with anything and everything that you've ever dreamt of, right? And even beyond anything and everything you've dreamt of.
Mhm.
And so it's interesting because I feel like, this is a big statement now. I feel like, you'll hear some people talk about the new earth.
Mhm.
And that's what it feels like to me is that we're essentially stepping up from, what we've experienced in this 3D world, the maybe, like we said, hardship, greed, corruption, all kinds of stuff, right? Scarcity, war. But as we work on ourselves, as we allow ourselves to really be the light that we are,
Mhm.
that's it. As we allow ourselves to act, to be the light that we are, right? Remembering that we're not that. We're not the shame, we're not the fear. We're this bountiful, incredible light that is all powerful.
Mhm.
And that is essentially elevating our frequency. And collectively, that is what
Mhm.
is leading us into this idea of a new earth, right? Where
Mhm.
we're tapped into bounty, where we're tapped into respect and love and connection and unity. So it's
Mhm.
almost like I've told people recently, you know, you can hit unsubscribe, right?
Ooh, ooh, I
You
like
can click
that.
on yeah. It's like, I don't subscribe to that anymore. Even if my husband's like, "Rah, rah, this is happening, that's happening," and it's all this kinda, and I was like, "Okay, aware, registering, but I'm gonna unsubscribe because the reality that I'm creating is one of unity and love and consciousness." And so I think the big takeaway is to allow yourself to be this light that you are. And that means that you perhaps you meditate daily. Perhaps you spend time in nature daily. Perhaps you spend time with animals daily. Perhaps so you allow yourself to feel that lit up state, right?
Mm.
And then being aware that it's like, okay, I don't have to go into that fear. That's there,
Mhm. Mhm.
but it's like a choice point too. Right? It's a
Amen.
choice, and
Mhm.
trust me, you're gonna have to make the choice. Well, okay, I should speak for myself. I have to make that choice regularly. Traipse
Absolutely, yeah.
traipse into that, "Oh, no, okay, back over
Yeah, it's
here."
not this one-time thing that now forevermore you're living in light, right? It's a
Yeah,
habit, it's a ritual. I don't
yeah,
just do one session with Rachel and I'm done. I continue having sessions that are like that just keep opening me and keep expanding
Yeah.
myself. I mean, even you were saying earlier, you said, wow, you've been doing so much. You were just in Edmonton, you did this workshop, you have a cooking club launch, I'm in the talk show launch. I'm like, yeah, thanks to you, you've unleashed me.
You're
You've helped
everywhere
me
doing everything, it's
you've
crazy.
helped me unleash my own purpose. And I feel like and it's so funny, the things that I'm doing now once were a dream and now they just feel so minuscule to what I really want to do. And it's
Wow.
almost like once you tap into that on that where you're like, wow, I can do this. I can be the person that does that.
Yeah.
Then it just starts to tap into such infinite potentiality and those resources and people start showing up in your life that I've so many moments of wow, this is real. This
Right.
is, this is not just things that you read in a book, like be your light, like be your light.
Right. Right. Beautiful. So,
It's amazing.
if that sounds too kind of airy fairy and not graspable for some people,
Hmm.
then a really powerful thing to do is to, with prayer, is just say, please show me the truth of who I am. Please
Oh,
show
that's a
me
great
the
one.
truth of who I am. Right?
It's really beautiful, and thank you for sharing that because there are always I think because I used to be one. I used to be one that was like, "What is this stuff? What are you talking about?" It and until I started exactly praying, doing the work, having my own breakthroughs, just like our client last night that shared on her call. I just loved it because she's said, "I am I broke through that. I get it. I get it now." And I said, "Once you have that personalized experience of something magical or profound happening in your life, it's undeniable." And that's what one of my tattoos on my arm says is once you know, you can't unknow. And
Mm,
and then you start to see things as one of my mentors says is it's all your hologram. And if you want something to
yeah.
change in the hologram, go inwards. And like you said, I love the unsubscribe, unsubscribe from that and subscribe to that.
Yeah. Yeah,
And we do have that
exactly.
power. We do have that power. So thank you so much, Rachel. That was
You're
absolutely
welcome.
beautiful
Thank
and
you.
such a
Thank you so
special
much.
wisdom and insights to share with the world. And as you can see, I loved in the beginning, it was like you were in a channeled state. And that's really one of the most profound experiences you could ever have. My invitation for you is to not miss the opportunity to have a session with Rachel. And if you want a deeper transformation in your health, then our 90-day transformation program is also a beautiful experience for walking through, the juice feasting and the real physiology clearing to combine the duality with Rachel's sessions are just really beautiful and special. We have some of our IGT students on the call. Give Rachel a round of applause,
Oh,
everybody.
thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
for
you so
joining
much.
us, everybody, and we look forward
Thank you,
to
Christine.
having you in our groups to come, and it's so exciting. So thank you. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Big hugs.